Okay. Alright, so I'm going to kind of roll through the same kind of process today. What are you going to do today? The same thing we do every day. Try to master the fretboard. Okay. Let's see. Let's make this a little bigger. Okay. Alright, so I'm gonna test the old tuning first. Okay. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to try, so after the joke jump, I'm going to go back into this and we'll, again, map out from that D in each of the nodal points, just basically looking at the 1 and the 3, and then I'll add the 5, and we'll basically I'll just keep on building up the chord and try to really nail down all of the distances from this perspective. And again, if I can figure it out, every nodal point from each slice of the guitar, we will be able, in theory, it seems to me, that we would then be able to go to any slice of the guitar and be able to then apply the appropriate shape, right? Because I would know that if it's the top string, then I know if I know the node and which string, then I know which shape I should be leaning forward into, and that will give me the entire shape, right? So that, I think that's like one of the most efficient ways to kind of learn all of the shapes relative to all of the nodal positions by basically position, right? And so that's what I'm kind of working on. That's my theory, at least. Take it for whatever you want to take it for. I'm gonna go back on over here, and I kept on messing. I'm still messing with these diagonal patterns and trying to see what the best way to finger them would be. And I'm kind of liking this one finger. If it's a diagonal, just the one finger following up is actually quite useful. I have come to the conclusion of. So now I'm trying to think about, well, how can I mix that up maybe with other ideas on the pattern. And so I was thinking, like, if I like skip strings, for example, and just think of another pattern that might. So my theory is this: the reason the one finger pattern works good here is because basically on the second string, I'm right underneath it, right? So if I'm gonna maneuver up the guitar like this, then it works perfect. Just if I try to do two fingers, I get mixed up, because it's like, where am I gonna do once I'm here? Do I want to lead here or here? I mean, at one point I have to actually use one or the other finger to do the slide, and if I'm going to continually slide diagonally, I have to choose a finger to kind of lead the slide, right? It could be that finger or whichever finger you want, but I mean, you kind of have to use one finger. Okay, so if that's the case, then what if I did the same thing but we skipped like a string? And so now I'm thinking, like, what if I started up top and then I went down here? It's still on the same tier, so I still have that same diagonal, so I would think it'd be a one finger pattern still. So what if I go from there down to there? Now that's an octave, the way it plays out, so that's fine. Okay, whatever. But then here, I'm going to go back up above it. From here, maybe to here. And then when I go here, I'm going to go below it. So I'm going to try to do every other. So I'm going to try to skip a string, and then when I go here, it's going to go here to here. Now this is going to be playing something that's quite repetitive because I'm going back and forth across basically octaves. So that's kind of wonky, right? Mixolydian, Aeolian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, Phrygian, Lydian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian to Mixolydian, Aeolian. But just from a fingering standpoint, like what would that look like? So I could try it like this way. Like most people would play it like this, jump. I would have usually played it like this, jump, jump. But it's actually easier to see if you have one finger because it's right on the same line, so. What if I went back the other way? I'm trying to see it the other way. Skip. Disjointed sounding. It's kind of interesting. Now you might be thinking you keep playing it in the same key, and that's because that's the key I know best. But you could do it, the same pattern would move up, right? I mean, if I played it in a different key, like this is at 4 o'clock, 6 o'clock around D major or something, right? Just to point this out, then the whole thing would shift up. If I want to play from the same node, then this whole pattern would I can't just move them all up at the same time. Come on. Anyway, the whole pattern would shift up to here, right? If I wanted to play from that Mixolydian node. So I'm just practicing the patterns though in the thing I know. But I'm just saying if I learned this pattern from the Mixolydian node, as long as I name it from node to node, then the pattern will always be the same in all 12 collections of 7 notes. If right is the point. Could I do it in all 12 collections? No, because it's a practice session and I'm not, so anyway, so I was also thinking, like, if I just did the normal pattern, like, what could I grab along the way? So if I just went back to this, it's pretty clear that I can almost always grab the 5th, of course. So as I'm dragging this finger up, I always have the power chord. Except if I'm going off of the Locrian node. So I can always turn it into a power chord, so it's a 1-finger walk up power chord maneuver, right? That shape, if I'm just playing with this finger on the walk up, that shape should work every time. Except right there on the Locrian. could just throw a power chord in every once in a while and not even know where I am, really. That's not a power chord, that's the diminished, but on the Locrian. But it kind of works for a tension point. Okay, so that works, and what also always works is the string underneath it, which is the perfect third, which would be the third modal half step fourth, which everyone has a same distance of 5 notes away from each node. 5 note. That's why it's right underneath it, right underneath it, right underneath it, right underneath it, except for the Lydian. The Lydian's the only one that doesn't have something underneath it. So I can also do a double stop, basically what I would call a double stop on every string if I'm just following my pointer finger. And the only time that doesn't work, or where I have to be careful, is in between these two strings. Where's the double stop there? It's not a double stop anymore because it's been shifted up here, because this fault line shifted up. So this shape works every time, except if you're on the Lydian, if you're on that string. And then if you're not on that string, the double stop works every time, except if you're on the Lydian. Okay, so then of course I could do a combination of those. Not saying that sounds good, but that should technically work. And then if I do the thirds, then I always have either a major or minor third on each node. So that gets a little bit more tricky. Off of the mixolydian. Off of the mixolydian, I have a major third, which is always right behind it here. And then off of the Aeolian, I have a minor third, which is always back one. And then off of the Dorian, I have a minor third, which is always back one. And then a minor third off of the Phrygian, and then a minor third off of the Aeolian, and then a minor third off of the Locrian, a minor third, and then down here it gets wonky because the whole thing shifts up. So now we have a minor third, which is right there, and the major is right underneath it. So I could lead with one of these, one of these two fingers, and reach that third. I think it's actually easier with the flip-off finger. I'm trying not to flip you off. They'll ban me. I don't think it would offend you, but it could offend the YouTubes. I think that's easier is because when I hit this one, I have to pivot my in order to not muddy up. If I use this finger, in order to not muddy up this string, I kind of have to pivot my wrist this way, which means it's not really good for maneuvering like this, right? Because I want to have it leaned back, and then you get the pad of the finger. So I think this finger, if I'm going to walk up like this finger actually, because I can arc it with that knuckle a little better, I feel like it actually works better. And then I have to grab a little bit over here, a little bit more. And that's probably what that French guy kind of discovered. He's like, hey, wait a sec, I got an advantage here. These people are grabbing it funky. Because I can walk up like this. if I go above it, there's always going to be above it a perfect fifth. I thought I fixed this. Copy. Oh, now I've got two of them. Okay, I want to be okay, so if I go above it, there's always going to be one right above it for a double stop. But that's going to be difficult to grab if I'm walking up with my, oh, wow, what happened there? With my with my pointer. You always got the double stop above it. So if I was walking like back this way, I can always go to the one above it. So I'm kind of leading with this finger, but it's kind of wonky to try to grab that one, even though it's there all the time. Kind of messes up the whole pattern. But I have that one is always there. So that would be, and then over here, this one is a tritone. That's funky. The 7 is either a major 7 or a minor 7 back here. So if so the minor 7 would be nice to grab from time to time, maybe, if it was. That doesn't work right there. Let's try a joke break. Joke break. A little bit political on this one, I think. I can't remember. Let's see. Been watching. I'm still like amazed because now you've got like I'm watching like the politics here, and you've got like since like the deleting since I can't say the deleting of Charlie Kirk, you've had the weirdest phenomenons happening. You've got the normal phenomenon where you've got the leftists that immediately made a meme out of the assassination to mock the guy, which was to be expected about that's what those people do. But then you've got the woke right who did something more nefarious, that they actually tried to blame the widow and I guess the Jews or something that actually was the one behind killing even President Trump. He's killed. They all are. So that was even, wow. That's even like more nefarious. I mean, it's almost easier to say you don't like him, so you made a meme of him, but then you're going to be like going after his widow, and so that's pretty crazy. And then you've got the death of a guy who actually could be compared to like a 20th century totalitarian ruler, and now you've got again of course the left actually venerating the guy to some degree, in the obituaries and whatnot, which again that's what they do, you'd be to be expected. But then the right is kind of, this woke right thing is basically doing the same thing, and it's kind of crazy. It's a crazy thing to watch, it's weird. So that was my general kind of thought process that when I was kind of I think it was when I was doing, I don't know, I can't remember. Anyways, I'm just watching the weirdness. So it's crazy watching the mainstream of sewage media and the new woke right complain when some crazy terrorist leader gets deleted, I mean, and I'm just sitting there thinking like, whatever, good riddance, dust to dust, if I get him out of here, or did the crazy terrorist wannabe theologian try to edit that dust to dust part out of the Bible? Am I not allowed to say that anymore? Did they try to edit that bit out? Who knows? Who freaking knows? But it doesn't really matter if they tried to edit it out of the Bible. Dust to dust is still the policy either way. Dust can't change divine policy, but it sure can lie about it. It's crazy. Although with some of these guys, I feel like the middle part of the journey of dust to dust is a little shorter. The part between the dust, the part between the dust phases is a little shorter. I mean, it might take a long time because dust can stick around in different forms and like a dirt clod, for long periods of time. I'm saying it's because it's becoming very apparent that there was really nothing but dust between their ears the whole time. The whole time between the ears, there's nothing but dust in there, for crying out loud. I doubt it was even moist enough to qualify as mud. You couldn't even call it mud in between the ears. More like dust in there, So for some people, the trip back to dust isn't really a journey at all. It's not like a long transformation or anything. You don't even have to dry it out, right? It's already dried out in there. It's more like a short commute. They basically start at dust, take a brief detour through bad ideas that only a dust in between your head would have thought was reasonable, and then circle right back to the original material again. No processing required, factory settings, dust to dust, but we won't even make the brain needs, just like Bundy said, or Al Bundy from Married with Children, you get the brain, you have to at least keep it wet You have to at least keep it wet, or you start saying, or you start doing, coming into really stupid ideas, you know. So, and I don't think the brain was kept wet or something, and that was a problem. Anyway, I don't know if that works. Let's see what we get here.
It's crazy watching sewage media and the new woke right complain when some deranged terrorist tyrant suddenly exits the game. And I'm just sitting there thinking, watching the outrage and fuss. Didn't we all learn the ending? The old rule, dust to dust. Now maybe there wannabe theologians tried editing scripture for us, scratching that line from the margins. You know, the dust to dust, dust to dust. That's the policy. Heaven doesn't rewrite the law. Dust can argue, dust can shout, dust can lie about what it saw. But dust to dust is still the ending, no matter the noise or the fuss. You can rewrite the headlines, but you can't rewrite dust to dust. Oh, although with some of these guys, the journey seems slightly rushed, like the middle part of the story got accidentally crushed. You know, the long human chapter between the beginning and bust. Some folks barely get started before it's just dust to dust. Because between those years you're noticing there wasn't exactly much, not even mud in the mixture, just pre-installed factory dust. Dust to dust, that's the policy. Heaven doesn't rewrite the law. Dust can argue, dust can shout, dust can lie about what it saw. But dust to dust is still the ending, no matter the noise or the fuss. You can rewrite the headlines, but you can't rewrite dust to dust. Some lives take the scenic highway, miles of wisdom to discuss, but others start at dust. Take a detour through bad ideas, then circle right back to dust. Dust to dust, no processing needed, no upgrade, patch, or fuss. Straight from factory settings back to the original dust. History spins, the pundits argue, the noise gets louder than us, but the universe keeps the same setting. Dust to dust. No processing required, factory settings.
I think the new guy is literally made out of cardboard. Literally made out of cardboard. It went from dust in the ears to the whole thing is all dust. It's squished, packed together dust. There's no moisture in there. At least there should be some moisture in there. No, what does that guy look like? He's stiff as a cardboard. What is going on here? I don't know. Who knows? Whatever, dude. All right. Let's see. let's try to go back to this thing here. We're gonna go back to this thing. And let's see. So we're on we're gonna let's go back to nodal point 4, 4 o'clock. So I'm at 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock, and that means that the nodal, that's the collection of notes around the key of C. That means on the 8th fret up, first string down from the ceiling, that's our C. Back to the 5th fret, first string down from the ceiling is our A. So this is going to be what we call then, I would call position number 1, or you might call it the Aeolian position, or you might call it from the Ionian's perspective, from a caged system, the Ionian G shape. So then we're going to be on the 5th fret up, first string down from the ceiling. That's going to be from the string star of D, string star of D leaning forward into shape number 1, the Mixolydian shape, or the Ionian G shape. Okay, so then what we're going to do is I am going to build a chord by stacking every other note. That's how the chord is built. But I'm going to do it instead of in scale degrees with modal half steps, measuring from this node, not including the node that you're measuring from. And then we'll bridge it into the scale degrees. So that means if I'm just taking one step away from Dorian, I don't need to make it the 1 and then add the 3. Right? It would be easier to say that's 0 to 2 to the second modal half step. So if I'm building a chord, it would be easier even to say it's a 1 modal whole step away, meaning 1 modal whole step is every other note in the collection of notes starting from the second point Dorian, which would be 2 modal half steps, which allows me to do some simple math saying if it's 2, 3, 4, it would be going to the Lydian. Now, why is it in the ocean, what I would call the Lydian Ocean, 4.5? Because if I was to measure it from where we were last time on the Mixolydian, then it would be out here. So that's because the Mixolydian has what we call a long start or a major second modal half step third scale degree, and the Dorian has a short start or minor second modal half step third scale degree. Okay, so that's going to be. So I think there's only one. Let's go to the Aeolian this time. Okay, so that's going to be the general idea. All right, so that means that nodal point 4, if you don't renumber the system, notice nodal point 4 is always the Dorian's first modal whole step, second modal half step, third scale degree, which has a short distance of 3 notes away as opposed to a long distance of 4 notes away. There's only 2 distances per modal half step or per scale degree. I can count that by saying 5 notes between the strings, 5, 10, and then 15 as we move up here, because this is shifting up. The fault line shifts up. 15 is over an octave, so if I bring it down within the local distance, 15 minus 12 is 5 minus 2, which is 3. So it would be 3 notes away if we're within the octave. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to say, now I just want to think about the idea how beneficial, I just notice if it would be useful to see that this 4 is always, again, the first modal half step, second modal, first modal whole step, second modal half step, third scale degree, and you can measure it, right? Whereas if you use the current convention where I have to name that as the 1 in order to do the measurement and then see this as the third, that becomes a problem, right? Because then I can only see this as the third if I make that the 1. And then I say and even if I make that the 1, I'm probably not going to look at the distances as though they're Dorian distances, because I'm not including the difference between the Dorian and the Aeolian. Let me show you let me try to list this out more succinctly, because I just want to try to keep reiterating this in my mind so I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy, man. Okay. I don't, because like the way I would think about it, and I think like if you made this from scratch today without all the baggage, this is what you would probably thinking, right? You'd probably thinking, I got each of these nodal points in a 7-note collection. I have 12 7-note collections, which are just copied and pasted across the fretboard, which is basically a spreadsheet, right? And I mean, same thing for any other instrument, because the all other instruments could be thought of with our circle of fifths and circle of fourths, which is the basic tuning of the guitar. So it's not really even guitar centric, right? And so that means, so then I would be thinking, okay, let's measure from each of these nodal points to see what the distance is to each of the other notes within the collection of notes. And what would you do? You would say, okay, well, this is one modal, one step up in that collection of notes, which I'm calling a modal half step, 2 steps up, 3 steps up, 4 steps up from the Dorian node. And then I can compare each of those steps up. 1 step up if I'm looking at the perspective of the Dorian versus 1 step up if I'm looking at the perspective of, say, the Ionian or something like that. 2 steps up from the Ionian, 2 steps up from the Dorian. And I can compare those. What we're currently doing, however, is we're using defaults of the major, right? So what people normally think of then is I'm going to see this Dorian node. I'm at 4 o'clock. I'm seeing that as basically the Dorian node if I was to number them from the perspective of the Ionian, right? But if I build a chord on it, I'm going to call it a minor chord. So I'm not really thinking of it as unique to the distances of the Dorian, because the distance of the Dorian has a difference only when you get up to the 6th scale degree, 5th modal half step, 6th scale degree. So that means when I build a chord here, I'm still not thinking of it as from the perspective of a Dorian, right? I'm going to call it a D. And again, that's kind of a problem. I mean, why is that an issue? It would be easier to call it a D. But if you call it a D, it's not telling you where the relative perspective is. I'd rather say it's the D Dorian. It's the right? I don't even need to say D if I know the collection of notes is in the collection of notes around the key of C or 4 o'clock. See, if I say it's a D minor, then it doesn't give me any context within the collection of music. And that's, I think, what mixes people up, because they think that the distances from the Dorian, the Aeolian, and the Phrygian node are all the same. But they're not, because these are different points on the map from the perspective of 4 o'clock. So what ends up happening is we're going to say, okay, well, if that's going to be a D minor, and then I have to make it the 1, and then I have to basically count the distance over here. That would be a minor third if that was the 1 of a minor. And when I say minor, if I tried to tie that to an actual mode, if I try to pin it down, I would be thinking it's the mode of Aeolian. But I'm not on Aeolian, I'm on the Dorian. You see how kind of messy that is? Whereas if you kept it as a Dorian and you measured from the Dorian, and like I'm just going to use the distances from the Dorian. Yes, many of them are the same distances as from the Aeolian, but now I know which node I'm on. I'm on the Dorian node at 4 o'clock, and then it would be useful for me to be able to say that means that the Lydian is always the same distance away. It's always the Dorian's first modal whole step, the Dorian's second modal half step, the Dorian's 3rd scale degree. If you want either of those measurements you want to use, it's always that. And I can see it numerically because the Dorian is continent number 2, and I'm going 2 continents up, 2 modal half steps up, which will get me to continent number 4, which is Lydian. So everything about this will tell you exactly what you're doing from a mapping perspective, like a game, like most people think. Whereas if you try to name that a D, and you just ignore that it's on the Dorian node, you don't know where it is in the collection of notes, I'm going to guess that it would be the 1/4, on the Aeolian, the Dorian, or the Phrygian. And then you name the chord as though the name kind of sounds like it was coming from the Aeolian, unless you add the 6, in which case then you might have to indicate something funny with the chord name. There's going to be a weird extension on it, right? to test to say, or there won't be a weird extension. Where you would think there would be a weird extension, but there won't be because it hasn't, because the 6 would be the not would be the 13 would be the 13, which would have a major, and it would be major. So you would think it would be weird, but it won't be because so you see the whole thing is it'd be a lot easier to. It's a lot easier to see it this way. Okay, I got tied up, but hopefully maybe that made some sense. Anyway, it's crazy. Okay. So let's say we're gonna make it Aeolian now. We're gonna make it Aeolian. So I'm playing in Dorian here, like most people probably do. They're like, I'm gonna make this. I know this collection of notes, so maybe I'll make this the minor. But then you're like, but I want to make it Aeolian, like the main minor, the minor scale. What's the difference between this? It's got that major 9 in it. But I want to make it the normal minor. Why would you do that? Well, maybe you're playing the normal A minor progression, where it would be, I would call it nodal point 6 instead of making that the 1. It would be 1 4 5 if you make that the 1. I'd say it's a 6 2 3 if you keep the nodal points the same. Nodal point 6 chord, nodal point 2 chord, nodal point 3 chord, right? But if I go down to the Dorian, I want to make that, instead of making it a Dorian, I want to make it the minor. I want to make it an actual minor rather than the Dorian node. So how could I do that? Well, I could look at where the Dorian is at. It's over here. It's over here. I mean, I want to make it the Aeolian. So the Aeolian is over here in what I would call position number 4. So that's going to be position number 4. You might call it the Phrygian/Lydian shape or the Ionian C shape. And it repeats up here at 12th fret, which might be easier to see for fingering purposes. So if I was up here, then I can finger that Aeolian like this. So I'd be like, okay, if it was up here, it would be 6 7 1 2 3 4 5 6. Do I need to make that 6 the 1 to count it? No, it's just 6 to 6. That would be easier because then I can keep the nodes the same. Otherwise, I'm going to be like, okay, this is Dorian. If I make this as the Dorian, and the Dorian has like a formula of like whole, right? Because the formula is different. Whereas if I keep this thing the same, I'd be like, no, this is the Dorian 2 to 2. 2 3 4 5 6 7 1 2. And then if I lay the 6 shape on top of it, I might say, hey, look, I see that as the Dorian, but I want to lay on top of it a Aeolian shape, because I want to build a chord possibly that has a minor 6 or 13 in it, rather than the Dorian, which has the major 6 or 13. That's the difference between the two. So then I could just play this pattern on top of it. I'm going to say, hey, look, I don't want to change my perspective completely. I just want to play a chord right here that has the major 6 on it, but I'm still looking at the whole system from the perspective of 4 o'clock. I'm not going to change the perspective. I'm just going to tack on top of it. So the chord that I would build, I would like to say that I'm at 4 o'clock. I'm building a Dorian/Aeolian chord, right? I would name the chord Dorian/Aeolian 4-note chord or 4-modal half-step chord. Dorian/Aeolian 4, meaning take every other note but from the perspective of Aeolian shape. Or you might just call it a 5-note Dorian/Aeolian chord. So that I'm not going to change my collection, but I'm telling you exactly what I want you to do. I'm looking at that nodal point and I'm playing on top of it a Aeolian shape on it. That's what I'm thinking in my mind. Now you could name the chord from the Aeolian's perspective, which means you're just going to say, okay, I'm going to play a Dorian 1, meaning I'm adding just the third, and then I'm going to say plus the note that's in the ocean, right? The ocean note I'm going to be adding to it. I could name it that way if I want to, but most likely I'm going to be visualizing it as though I'm playing like an Aeolian shape, meaning I'm adding a minor 6 on top of the Dorian node. because what I want to do is play like a normal blues of a 1-4-5, which I would say is basically going from Aeolian to Aeolian to Aeolian, but I don't want to change my perspective of 4 o'clock, but instead I'm just going to use the shape of the Aeolian, Aeolian, Aeolian shape on each of the nodal points. Nodal point Aeolian, nodal point Dorian, nodal point Phrygian. That's how I'm viewing it. It would be nice if I could tell someone that by keeping the nodal points the same and then saying, look, I'm building a parallel chord construction on those anchor points. That's how I think would be the most efficient way to visualize it. So if I play, so like if I was on like this Dorian and I wanted to play this Aeolian shape, I could just count it out. I could visualize it over here as though it was shape number 4, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't need to make it the 1 to count it, right? I just visualize the shape 6 to 6 and so anytime the second string down from the ceiling is an Aeolian node, I'm leaning forward into shape number 4, right? Okay, so why does that work? What if I do want to change it? What if I want to change from this 4 o'clock to whatever the collection of notes needs to be to make this a D Aeolian? I want to change the whole thing. Okay, well then what would happen if this is the Aeolian? It would be going, if my finger's on the star of D and the fretboard underneath it is changing, there's 7 continents, 5 oceans, it's going back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 4 minus 7 is negative 3. So negative 3 minus 12 is 9. So that means I would be at 9 o'clock. At 9 o'clock. So boom. So now this shifted back here, and 9 o'clock means that we are at F. 9 is an F. If you make A 1, if you numbered the notes and A is a 1, 9 is an F. Okay. So now I'm leaning forward into shape number 4, which you might call the Phrygian/Lydian shape or the Ionian C shape. And now that anytime the second string down from the ceiling is an Aeolian, I'm leaning forward into shape number 4. So now I can move forward and say, now people, I'm visualizing this differently. How am I visualizing it? Now I'm not thinking of myself at 4 o'clock and then pegging symmetrical shapes, Aeolian, 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 on the 3 pegs at 4 o'clock. No, I'm actually shifting in my mind from 4 o'clock to 9 o'clock here. It's still going to be a parallel shape, but now when I add the 6, it's going to be in there. It's going to be in the shape. So if I'm in a DAW system, I would like the ability to do either one, right? I'd like the ability to say I'm still at 4 o'clock in this part of the song, and I'm going to put a shape on it that will be parallel construction shapes that I'm tagging to these nodal points. Or I'd like to say at this part of the song, I'm changing the key signature completely because that's how I want to visualize it. And then if you were to build a song like that in a DAW, look how cool that would be, because then you can shift the entire song through all 12 collections of notes, and all parts of the song would shift, and you can rotate each song or part of the song through each of the modal perspectives, and you can easily tinker with it that way, basically shifting it around in a way that would be musical. You can't do that now because they're visualizing it without any relative perspective. Okay, and it would be so much cooler if you could do that. I think. Okay. So what if I only know the Aeolian from like the top string? So I know the Aeolian from like this top string. So that's going to be I know how to play it from here. So 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Could I play the second string down on shape number 1 as though it was the top string of shape number 1? Because maybe that's how I know the shape. Yeah, you could, right? I could just say, look, now I'm back to the idea of I'm not going to change the key signature, but I want to play that second one in a parallel construction because I'm playing basically Aeolian to Aeolian to Aeolian, the L shape, but I want to play it all Aeolian and just think about it that way. So I want to name it from the perspective of those 3 pegs on there are all going to be Aeolian. Even if I'd like to say that even if I'm not going to add the 6, because that's how I'm seeing it, right? I'm seeing it Aeolian, Aeolian, Aeolian on top of the pegs of the 6, 2, and 3, right? And if I add the 6, I would have parallel construction there. So I can say, okay, that 2 then would be, if I'm going to make that the 6, it would be 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? And so why does that work? Because if I wanted to shift the collection of notes, I could shift this down, meaning my fingers on the star of D at 4 o'clock happens to be the continent of Dorian. If I shift everything down, it's equivalent because the fretboard is tuned with geared to the circle of fifths and the circle of fourths, which is standard music theory. So if I move it down, it's equivalent to 5 ticks to the right. So this time I'm going to change. So if it's 5 ticks to the right plus 4, that gets me to 9. 9 o'clock, which means collection of notes around an F. Now, if I tick that and I visualize it this way, now I'm going to visualize this going down instead of this going to the right. So this string is going to cross the fault line. This tectonic plate shifts to the right. So when this crosses the fault line, it's not going to go directly down, but it's going to shift this way. That 1 is going to be on the 6th fret. Let's test it out. I'm going to go 9. When I do this, I'm not visualizing this going this way. I'm visualizing this going this way, which is the same thing if you don't take the octaves into account. Boom. So there it is. And now the 1 shifted out here. Okay. So now once again, I'm leaning forward into what I would call shape number 4, the Phrygian/Lydian shape, the Ionian C shape. Okay. Now if I look at the relative positions here, the relative position from the Aeolian to the first modal whole step, second modal half step, third scale degree, and Dorian to the first modal whole step, second modal half step, third scale degree is the same relative distance because they both are part of what we might call the short start group, the minor group, which is defined by where the first modal whole step, second modal half step, third scale degree is, meaning it's the short of the 2 distances that it could possibly be, as opposed to the long distance, which you might call minor, as opposed to major. And that means that the Ionian is always, the Ionian node, the Ionian continent is always, if you go 1 modal whole step up from the Mixolydian, from the Aeolian continent, continent 6, you will land on Ionian all the time in all 12 collections of notes. What is defined by 1 modal whole step? 1 modal whole step times 2 is 2 modal half steps, meaning meaning you go 2 modal half steps up. That's the definition in the collection of notes. Boom, right there. You'd end up right there, right? If you went from here to here. And so that means, and that means if you add this as the tonic, that would be 1, 2, 3, the third scale degree. Why would you add this as the tonic? That's not how you measure stuff. Yeah, because I know it's stupid, but you know, we have to tie it into what's currently happening. So it would be the third scale degree, and the distance would be 1, 2, 3 notes away, which is the short distance as opposed to the long distance for like here to here, 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's only 2 possible distances, short or long, given the formula whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half, because that's just how it is if you work it out. So, well, you could have a double augmented, you could have like a double augmented, no, you can't. That's dumb, okay? Well, you need that for like voice leading, whatever, dude. No, you don't. That's a myth, okay? This is frickin' myth. It's total cockamamie crap. All right. Okay. All right. So anyways, let's look at it this way. Getting sick of this, man. I tell you, don't tell me I need that for voice. This is lies. Lies. All right. What if we mapped it out? What if we mapped it out this way? So if we map this whole thing out, we've got all the 7 continents, 5 oceans. We've got the fretboard constellation on top here, and so we're at collection of notes at 4 o'clock, collection of notes around C major. This is fret 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, fifth fret up, second string down from the ceiling. That's the star of D, which happens to be hovering over the continent as the world turns of the Dorian continent, continent number 2. And then we want to make it a 6, right? So we want to make it Aeolian. Okay, so currently I'm leaning forward into shape number 1, or you might call it the Ionian G shape, or you might call it the Aeolian shape. If I want to make it 6, easiest way to look at it on the same string. Here it is on the same string at that open position. And if I look at 4, it's leaning forward into what I would call shape number 4, the Phrygian/Lydian shape, or the Ionian C shape. And we need to move it forward then. How many ticks under my star string of D? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ticks forward. So if we're at 4 o'clock plus 5, that would be 9 o'clock. So we go, oh, what's going on? It's not tied to the, what is happening here? All right. Is this, dude? Oh, crap. It's not stuck to the thing. Alright, let me see if I can... This needs... How did that happen? I'm going to take this whole thing and then this and group them. Oh, wait. No, I screwed it up. Dang it. Okay. Stay calm. This, and this needs to be groups. Boom. Okay. And then I put this on top. All right. Okay. So let's try it now. So now I'm going to move this. It's not working. How did it get ungrouped? Dang thing. Pissing me off. Excel. What's your problem? I'm going to take this and group them. Group. Okay. All right. Okay, so now let's try. I'm going to move this. There we go. Okay, so now from the perspective of the yellow, it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth fret up, second string down. My finger's still on the string star of D. Now leaning forward, however, into shape number 4, the Phrygian/Lydian shape, or the Ionian C shape. Okay, what if I wanted to what if I knew it from the top string? I knew it from the top string, so I can say, couldn't I play the second string down from shape number 1 as though it's the top string of that shape? We could. Why? Because if I go down 1 tick, that would be equivalent to going 5 ticks to the right. So that means that it would once again go from 4 o'clock plus 5 to 9 o'clock, or it's equivalent to 7 ticks to the left, meaning it would be 4 o'clock minus 7 would be -3, and that would, you can't have a negative, so it's going to be 12 minus 3, which would once again get to 9 o'clock. So if I move it down from the perspective of the yellow, it's still 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth fret up, second string down from the ceiling, leaning forward into shape number 4, the Phrygian/Lydian shape, or the Ionian C shape, but the red is now telling us we can visualize it as though it was the top string of shape number 4. Okay, so let's go here and look at it this way. So now we've mapped every continent, and every ocean has a star directly above it now. And so on the whole planet, which is mapped out flat. And so now we're going to say our constellation happens to be the fretboard. You could do the same thing for any instrument. We're at, once again, 4 o'clock, collection notes around the key of C, which you can see by the 1 or Ionian being on the C, and the open E string, the one closest to the ceiling, happens to be nodal in continent number 3, Phrygian continent. The open A is continent number 6, the Aeolian continent. The open D is continent number 2, the Dorian continent. The open G is continent number 5, the Mixolydian continent. The open B, continent number 7, Locrian continent. The kink and the tuning being represented by the shape of our constellation. Open E on the closest to the floor string is once again the Phrygian continent. This is fret 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th fret up, 2nd string down from the ceiling. My finger is on. From space, the star of D. Okay, so now I want to make that. I'm leaning forward into the what I would call possibly the Aeolian shape, shape number 1, or from the Ionian's perspective, the Ionian G shape from a caged system, and I want to make that the Aeolian. So I could find the Aeolian in the current collection, which would be back here or up here. If I look at this, I'm looking at then leaning forward. Anytime the 2nd string down from the ceiling is an Aeolian, I'm leaning forward into what I would call the shape number 4, the Phrygian/Lydian shape, or the Ionian C shape, and I can move that forward 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ticks, and that will land it underneath. The Aeolian will be under the star of D, the string star of D, and nodal point 1 will go up here from C up, what did I say, 5 ticks. 4 plus 5 would give us to 9. 9 is going to be an F if you number the notes from 1 to 12 like a normal person would do. If they didn't smack you every time you did that, if they didn't rewrite the text and say you can't do that or that's illegal. What the heck are you frickin' talking about? It's illegal. That's the obvious thing any normal person would do. Okay. Oh my God. Okay, so we're gonna say this is gonna be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th fret up, 1st string down from the ceiling. My finger is on the string star of D, which happens to be now underneath, shifted up to continent number 6, the Aeolian continent, leaning forward into what you might call the Phrygian/Lydian shape, the Ionian C shape. So, and then nodal point 1 is now on F because F is going to be note number 9. Note number 9. Note number 9 is under the antiquated rules. Note number 9 under antiquated system is an F. Okay. Now we could then say that I see the Aeolian on top of it here in shape number 1. Back to 4 o'clock. Shape number 1's up top. Shape number 1, and this is the Aeolian. Can't I play the Dorian as though it was the top string of shape number 1? We could, because we could just shift this entire thing down a tick. If I shift it down a tick, what does that mean? That would be equivalent to 5 ticks to the right, meaning it would be 4 plus 5 or to 9 o'clock, or it would be equivalent to 7 ticks to the left, which would be 4 minus 7, which would be negative 3, and 12 minus 3 is 9 o'clock once again. So if I shift this bad dog down, dude, then I get here, this is going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th fret up, 2nd string down. From the perspective of the yellow, we're leading forward into shape number 4, the Phrygian/Lydian shape, or the Ionian C shape, which we can see from the perspective of the yellow. We can kind of visualize it as though it was the top string of shape number shape number 1, the top string of shape number 1. All right. There we go. There we go. Yo. There we go, yo. All right. let's switch to here. Collection notes around A major. So now that you get the box shape up here. So let's say, let's go to A, actually let's go to A Mixolydian. So now you see I have this same shape this way in a different collection that I was noodling with, just to mix things up a bit.